Code is communication. Mr. Larson, I presume?
Yes, I feel thankful that I'm here to welcome you.
We're two seasoned software engineers, and in this podcast we're talking about what makes code high quality, communicating the intent to the team members. And in this episode, we have something that probably every team is discussing and is an issue everywhere, because naming is hard. So our today's topic is naming classes, naming functions, naming variables.
Oh, sorry to interrupt here, but I think there's a quote we can't really get around from Phil Carlton. There are only two hard things in computer science: cache invalidation and naming things.
Yeah.
Actually, and the follow-up is, after 20 plus years, I think naming's actually harder, because cache invalidation at least has algorithms. Naming has humans, context, and time. I think that's a good start.
Yeah. So what do you think? What is your mental rule for naming things?
I think one good point to make is that juniors struggle with syntax and logic, while seniors struggle almost exclusively with names, boundaries, and how names reveal or hide architecture.
Yeah, that's a little bit what I was pointing to in our first episode.
Yeah.
When I was talking about these layers of abstraction and the language that you use there.
Yeah. And I think there are some important challenges to naming. It's cognitive load, team communication, and long-term maintainability.
Yes. Yeah.
Given that we're working in large code bases, but we all are, aren't we?
To different degrees, yes. But usually we do complex things, at least when we actually get paid for it. Well, some people get paid for less complex things, but that's what we think we do.
I mean, you can always try to, if you want to position it junior versus senior, I would say that a junior or mid-level developer would say, does this variable name make sense in this function? Whereas a senior would say, does this name survive 5 refactorings, 3 teams, a domain pivot, and still prevent wrong assumptions 2 years later?
Well, I wouldn't. Because if the refactoring would require me to change a variable name, I just change the variable name. That's a different issue when we talk about function names, property names, and class names, because they can be seen from outside of the function. For property names, if they are private properties, I don't worry as well.
That's true, yes. But at least we can agree that good names would reduce the mental compilation.
I'm usually looking at it from the other side. When we talk about names that make up an API, like function names, class names, I'm looking at it from the side of the code that uses this function and that class. And try to make it as easy to understand for that level of abstraction.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're on the same when we talk about the scope rule, right?
Yeah.
So name lengths should scale inversely with scope. I think that's what you're getting at, right?
No, not necessarily, but roughly I would agree, not perfectly.
Wow. That's why we have a podcast, right?
See? Because sometimes you have a local variable that has a specific role and you want to communicate to the reader of that function that this variable actually has this role. Then you want to give it a name that says that, and you don't want to call it X.
Yes.
And sometimes this idea of having a bigger scope with longer names leads to unnecessarily repetitive names. I had that in a project where you had package name. I'm, of course, changing things up here now so that we're not revealing anything. But let's say you have a package hierarchy like strategic view and commands, because you have a command queue design pattern. In this specific project, first they would have had packages with one class each, both with the same name, and that name would be strategic view, something, command. They were repeating the package tree in the class name and in the leaf of the package name. So when you wrote that down, you wrote strategic view dot commands dot strategic view something command dot strategic view dot something command. And
Oh, that's brilliant. What's wrong with that?
And guess why they didn't want us to stick to a maximum line length rule? I mean, I'm not a hard defendant of maximum line length rules, but you wouldn't be able to instantiate any object with 80 characters.
That's a problem. Depends on your terminal.
Yeah, sure. That's why I meant I wouldn't necessarily keep up this bigger scope and longer name idea.
But intuitively, I think it makes a bit of sense at least. I mean,
yes,
you shouldn't die by it, but it's still helpful.
Yes, it's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
I have written down a few ideas about grammatical roles of different names.
With verbs, etc. Yes.
Yeah, so those rules are best with object-oriented languages when you do real object-oriented programming. And I have written down some issues with other languages that I see with it. But for object-oriented, it's a good rule of thumb. So, for example, functions should be verbs.
Yeah.
Like write, count, receive, stuff like that.
True.
And classes should not just be nouns, it should be category nouns. They should not be my red car, but they should be car.
Yeah.
And then my car is a variable, which is a specific instance, but you don't add red because red is a property.
Yeah.
So variables are nouns that describe a role, like this car is my car, whereas properties don't describe roles, they describe attributes of an object.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've written down is enum values. They should, in a perfect world, I know perfect world doesn't exist, but in a perfect world, they should be adjectives.
I'm always living in utopia.
What else do I have? Package names. Yes, actually, the project that I described before, the package names themselves were not necessarily bad, at least the first few, because they describe the design pattern or the architectural thing that is in this package.
Yeah.
So that basically would sum up the ideas about good names for object-oriented programming.
They're good ideas, yes. I can agree with them.
Maybe
and then I think there's another related topic is really naming at different layers.
Yes.
So if you have the domain layer, then you want to stick more to the business side of things. So no tech leakage. And then you have the application use case layer. Then it should be intent-focused verbs, connecting to what you said about verbs, combined with outcome, right? And then you have infrastructure adapters. It should be technical, but still really tell you what's happening. Right?
But you don't necessarily only have those layers. Because usually...
Well, in all my projects, we only have those layers.
Oh, yeah. And that's the world. Nothing else exists.
Correct, actually. No, but I think whatever division you make between different layers, you have a trade-off between consistency and precision, right? So if you want to be consistent, you tend to edge towards one side of things, whereas if you want to go for precision, you have a problem with consistency, right?
I don't know. I get what you're trying to tell us.
No, but I'm trying to say that if you want to name things too precisely, you will have issues with consistency.
Yes.
I mean, this is a bit abstract. I'm not sure if it helps anyone. But
I think they can come up with a negative example of what you're talking about.
That would be great, yes.
Hungarian notation.
Exactly. Oh, that's my next point, but sure, yes.
The terrible idea of encoding the class name in the variable. Then you want to change the class. And you have to change all variables everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's a horrible idea.
Now, I think that leads us to something where we have smells, naming smells, where you have normally run into issues sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned the Hungarian notation. I think it's more rare now than it used to be when we started out, but still there. You still see it now.
Yeah, there was a big hype when we two started, and now everyone knows how old we are.
But actually, I mean, to make a point of this, at my current workplace, I would say I'm far from the oldest, I would say, yes. So there's still some old habits to knock down, yeah.
You still can't retire, sorry. Eric. You have to work.
Yeah, this early retirement thing isn't really working out. But I mean, you have some usual traps that you run into. So you have like false friends, for instance. So you have the same word having different meanings across the code base.
Yeah.
So whatever user means, is it authentication or whatever? Or is it user CRM profile? Or what is it really? That's one trap that you could fall into easily.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's also this, if you're too abstraction happy, you run into something like generic entity service and you have no idea what it is doing.
Abstract singleton proxy factory.
Yeah, I know exactly what that does.
I know as well, but it's pretty useless.
I mean, there are some common keywords that would lead you to believe there's some abstraction hiding. So for instance, you have info, data, util, helper, base, abstract. And if you see that, you should be on your toes. Something is not right here.
At least 90% of the code with those names misses the you ain't gonna need it rule.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm also guilty of that from time to time. So
yeah, you're also writing Java code, I know.
What? I mean, there are some common traps for sure. And I think most of these are actually revealed when you onboard a new member of the team, right? When you have to take too much time to explain something to them. Why is it called that? And what's the difference between this user and that user?
Yeah, or when you need too much time to say the variable name.
Yeah, that's also a good metric.
Do you see some kind of nuance to those ideas that you came up with?
No, it's only black and white.
Okay.
It's either right or wrong.
Sure.
No, but there's usually a trade-off involved in things.
Yeah. So I was, with this, what I described for object-oriented programming, I came up with several issues. One of them, obviously, there are languages that are not object-oriented.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You mean like functional?
Yeah, or procedural programming languages.
Yeah. Those are still around.
Actually, people still use
That's
Pascal.
a hot topic.
Even in languages that have strong object-oriented support, but when they're multi-paradigm languages, those rules don't necessarily always match. Like when you have operator overloading for the call operator, like you can do in Python and in C++.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a class called parser.
Yeah.
You will want to overload the call operator because it's the only thing that makes sense with this class. You don't want to write a function called parse. But then you have a variable which is a noun, and you call it, which would actually require a verb in those rules that we had before. That's one of the things where you have to find a way to bend the rules to your needs.
And that's a large part of what programming actually is. I mean, you have some really good intuitive rules, but you always run into corner cases or where you have to make a compromise.
Exactly.
And that's the part of the art of things. It's not only science, it's also art.
Yeah. What you have to do to understand what you're doing, how you find good names, is not only understanding which level of abstraction am I on, what is the language, but you also have to understand the abstractions of your programming language and how they match to the abstractions of a natural language. Like we did with these rules, like a noun, a verb, a category noun, etc. You have to match programming language syntax to natural language syntax in order to understand which names you want to use at which places in your programming language.
Yeah.
Because then you can, in the end, write code that feels close to natural language.
Yeah. And I mean, now we have a totally new category with vibe coding, right? Where it's all natural languages. I think we're both too old to get into that.
I think, let's put it that way. Vibe coding can create you the algorithm.
Yeah, it can also make you very rich.
If you're the one who sells the AI, yes.
Yeah.
To the investor.
Yeah, it's like with the gold rush where you're supposed to sell the...
It's like with the .com bubble. People didn't get rich from what they sold, but from selling the ideas to the investors.
But it also led to good results.
Yes,
long
it did.
term.
It did, and probably the same will happen with AI. I mean, it's completely useless, but even if you let the AI create the algorithm for you, you will want to go through it and see if the names are good for what you are doing, because you are working in a specific business language. For example, when you're on the highest level of abstraction, you want to make sure that the variable names, function names, argument names, etc. match the business language, and the AI cannot know that. It simply doesn't have the information. Even if it could do it, it doesn't know what to use.
Yeah.
So you always have to go through it and at least think about the names.
I mean, we touched on many tangents now, but maybe for this episode we should wrap it up and maybe get back to this in future episodes, right?
You mean the AI thing? Yeah, probably.
I mean, to just make a point about AI, currently you have a lot of AI assistants reading code, and that makes it even more important to have precise names. That will make the LLMs hallucinate less. If names are unambiguous, you have less hallucination.
Actually, you can control the hallucination to a certain extent.
Brilliant. That's a topic for another episode, I think.
Yes. So there's parameters you can use when configuring your AI.
Yeah. And there's one general conclusion that I would adhere to or subscribe to. That's the best naming is invisible. You don't notice it. It just flows through the code.
That's actually a very good thing. Not necessarily invisible, but you don't feel it. If you feel it, it usually hurts. It's not like you read the code naturally then.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't talk about old ghosts too much, but Uncle Bob used to say that if you need to comment to explain the name, you should rename it.
Yes. Actually, not everything, but there are quite some things where I agree with Uncle Bob.
Yeah, I usually tend to agree with him on his social comments. No, not necessarily, no.
Yeah. Do you have some war stories, some like crazy naming issues that you remember from your work?
Yeah, but too many. So normally what I see in the Java world is that people overuse interfaces because Uncle Bob told you to. So you see a lot of interface names when ending in, I think one very common one is impl for implementation. I mean,
yes.
Why would that ever come up? So that's one of the problems with clean code, that people reading think it's just laws that you have to abide by. And that's not the way to use them, actually. They should be more like guidelines and not laws.
Exactly, yeah. Except for, of course, for the comment thing.
Yeah, and also interfaces. I mean, interfaces, it's a very, very good idea, but it shouldn't be thousands of interfaces for...
Yeah, it's like most language features can be very useful and can be terrible. Like, well, I just had that before, like operator overloading can be very useful in C++ or in Python. And it can be horrible because people overload inconsistently or overload with stuff that shouldn't be an operator and stuff like that.
Too much of a good thing.
Exactly.
Abusing is a fundamentally good idea, but if you overuse it, you will have issues.
And I think the same is what you were talking about with interfaces.
It's just something that I ran into recently when I'm trying to dissect a new code base and there's just interfaces everywhere. Nothing's doing anything.
Well, so... could you come up with any more naming antipatterns, Eric?
Yeah, I would say if you mix business terms with technical ones too much, you have an issue. So then you would run into anemic models and you would have translation tags that will keep you busy with non-productive stuff forever.
Yeah, that also points to the thing that we had with the abstraction layers, so that you have a language for each abstraction layer.
Yeah.
When you start to mix those languages up in one function, then usually this function lives on multiple layers of abstraction. Then you don't want that. You want to extract the stuff that talks in a lower layer out into its own function and have a name which matches for your layer that you're working on.
Yeah. I agree.
I just have the feeling that this was kind of one of the explanations that people hear and have to rewind, and then they say, "Oh, I don't get it." It's not a difficult concept.
Yeah, but many times the proof is in the pudding, right? So you have to do it yourself to get a deep understanding of it.
Yeah, with these war stories or antipatterns, we also can give some ideas of at least how not to do it. We already have talked about how to do it. So I think that would be a good explanation in the end.
I would want to add with a call to action. So next time you're in a pull request, you should ask yourself, if I rename this right now, does the code become more self-documenting? If yes, do it. I mean, it could be as simple as that, and it could help your project immensely and your team.
Yes, so kind of the Boy Scouts rule.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
Leave the place a little bit cleaner than you found it. I think that's a very good rule.
I adhere to that rule in my professional life, but not in my private life. No.
I'll leave that in.
Thank you. Thanks to the editor. No, but I think we have touched on a lot of topics that could lead to interesting future discussions as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of one very important anti-pattern. I mean, every company has TLAs, 3-letter acronyms.
Yeah, we have too many, I can tell you. I'm not saying more than
they have different meanings in every company. Just don't use them, because the next person who comes along and is newly hired to get into your project, he will have to learn all those TLAs anyway to survive the meetings. But if you use them in your code as well, then they have to first learn all the TLAs before they can understand your code.
Then you're on the dark side.
Yeah, so don't do that.
No, but it's very easy to fall into this trap, because on the business side, a lot of people are using this. I mean, this sounds very stupid, but it's very apparent in reality. Business people are using acronyms and nomenclature to put something like a mold around their power within the structure. And don't repeat that in coding, please.
Yeah, I get it for the business people, not only for protecting them. It's also like when you always have to say those words and you say them 20 times in a single meeting, and everybody knows what you're talking about when you just shorten it to 3 letters, that's okay. That's reasonable to do, because it's just getting annoying when you always say the whole sentence. But when you write it down in...
I'm just saying that business people, business analysts, they use business terminology and nomenclature to present a mode to others. And it's a way to leverage their power within the organizational structure. That shouldn't be repeated or replicated within the code structure.
Yes, even
preferably. I mean,
even though I had the example of 2 long variable name or class names before, you can also have them too short, because then they don't tell anything to a reader, and a reader can be a new team member, or can be you in 10 years when your business people have already
in 10 years I'm retired, don't worry.
No, Eric, you aren't.
Replaced by AI.
Maybe. Or in 5 years when the acronyms in the company already have changed completely. Because they do, because business people talk about new stuff, they have to come up with new acronyms which are the same but in a new context.
Yeah. It gets ridiculous, and it's easy to make a parody of it.
Yeah, that's why I say I do understand why business people do that. It's just you don't want to have that in your code. The discussion of those 3-letter acronyms also touches what I said about the layers of abstractions. Your highest layer of abstraction is business language.
Yeah.
May it be the user interface or...
as I call it, the domain layer.
Yes. The incentive of using those acronyms there is very high. And all of us have done that before and probably will do it again. That we fall into the trap and reuse the acronyms. We really should do a significant effort to avoid it.
I fully agree, yes. We should have a third partner in this podcast, the vibe coder, to get different perspectives on topics.
But he's gonna vibe code his
or she.
It's gonna vibe code and
they.
It's gonna vibe code what they're saying to us, and then we're gonna discuss in circles.
Actually, that's what I'm doing.
Guess why I know.
I mean, there's always room for improvement in this pod. That's one invariant. So to wrap this all up, finally, we would be happy to receive any kind of questions or comments you might have on this topic. You can reach out to us on our social media channels. That is Code is Communication on Facebook and LinkedIn. That is a dash between the words. And then we have the same Code is Communication, but with underscore between the words. That's for Instagram. On Blue Sky, whatever that is, it's like our domain name. So at codiscommunication.fm with dashes. And on Mastodon, we have at CIC-podcast at hostsharing.coop. Yeah, we're sponsored by Coop, by the way. If you still prefer X or Twitter, as it used to be called, you can find us there as codiscom, code_is_COMM. And then we also have a mail address, cic@codiscommunication.fm. Bye-bye.
Code is Communication.